Hello and welcome to this interview we're going to be having today. It's not really an interview, it's more like a retrospective discussion with the incredible, incomparable Annabel Brightling. And of course, this is in and around the Winds of Change project, which we're all gathered here to discuss. So I'm not going to delay any further. I'm just going to say welcome, Annabel. And let's start with a basic introduction. For starters, my name is Eugene. For those of you who don't know, I represent Comexposed. And I'll allow Annabel to introduce herself. Please go ahead, Annabel, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Eugene. Thanks for that introduction. It's really kind of you. So yeah, my name's Annabel Brightling. I'm a scriptwriter and I am the writer of Winds of Change. In terms of my background, I've pretty much been writing scripts since I was 12 or 13.
Wow.
As you can, like I saw an advert on TV for Kill Bill, and I said I want to do that for the rest of my life somehow, and I've just been in love ever since.
Wow.
And it's only in the last couple of years I've been grateful enough to get some more writing commissions. I've written a TV movie which will come out next year. I've written on a digital series called Seaview, and I've written on a couple of other shows that are also in the works as well. So.
Excellent. So when as a comic book author, as a writer myself, I love it when people bring up the first ever script to a comic book or whatever they develop when they're a kid, because that's where all the fun stuff is. I remember one of my earliest ideas being a terrible comic book called Super Kid, where the villain was a villainous guitar player who'd play an electric guitar on top of a building late at night, keeping everyone awake. And as a kid, I thought that was the ultimate villainy. So I have to quiz you on this. Can you tell us about that first script? What do you remember about it?
Oh, my first comic book. It would possibly be Spider-Man or X-Men. So my brother had a couple of the collections. And so I just remember reading those. They're two of my favorites. And then as the years went by, I started getting introduced to things outside Marvel, like Kick-Ass, I Love, and Watchmen, and
But what was the script? Do you remember the script that you wrote? That first script that you wrote at 13?
Oh, sorry. So first script I wrote, it was it was the sequel to Kill Bill, Volume 3. And it was handwritten, and it was terrible. And there's just a lot of people meeting at dawn and fighting, and it was really bad.
It doesn't get better than that. Excellent. So, you know what? That's an excellent icebreaker. I think we can just segue into Winds of Change and talk about how it all came to be. From your recollection, how were you selected to participate in this project? And what was your relationship with Writing West Midlands like?
So my relationship with Writing West Midlands kind of goes back to 2019. They have a scheme called Room 204, where you can essentially submit a piece of writing, and then you get selected to be their cohort, where they essentially mentor and guide you for the year. And I was lucky enough to get on to their 2019 cohort, and I ended up just having a really good relationship and rapport with Jonathan Davison, the CEO of Writing West Midlands. And Molly Davidson, she reached out to me, who's also associated with Writing West Midlands, and she said that they're looking for writers for a comic book series that she's doing, and she asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I'd already kind of interacted with Molly previously because she was an extra in Seaview, the show that I wrote episode 1 for. So from there, I said yes, and then I Googled, how do you write a script, a comic book script?
Well, was it a bit odd for you? I mean, I can imagine from my history with Writing West Midlands, I know them as this collective of literary thinkers and poets, and here you are being approached to write not only a comic book, but it's a superhero comic book, and you're collaborating with a team all the way in Zimbabwe. What was that like for you?
It was one of those things where I said yes, and then I pressed send on the email, and I said, oh wow, I probably should have checked first if I can actually do this, but it was too late. I already signed the contract, and then I was like,
Oh,
okay, I
wow.
have to commit to this now. But I was very nervous because
Yeah.
I'd never written for a comic book before. I just read them and consume them.
Wow.
So but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
nerve-wracking but fun.
wow. I mean, it's really my amazement is genuine because your body of work, you know, it has television stuff, and you know, you've got a TV movie coming up. So I'm truly amazed and kind of humbled because I'm from the comic book and animation world. So I'm quite stunned that wow, you'd actually be a little taken aback by the challenge. But you know that's really encouraging for us, I guess. And it leads me to my next question, which is about collaboration.
Mhm.
Um, how does it typically work when you're collaborating with other creatives, you know, within the world that you're coming from as a TV screenwriter, that kind of thing?
Well, there is definitely a lot of, especially for TV, a lot of kind of writers' room workshops. Kind of talking through the type of characters that we want in the show and their kind of journey. So it kind of works a little bit well because it's a similar pacing with the characters in the comic book. They kind of have to go through an inciting incident and they have to face adversity, the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of replicate that, but I guess I didn't have other writers around me. I kind of just had myself, so I kind of had to
Hmm.
workshop it on my own and figure it out. But
Yeah. Speaking of which, I like what you mentioned there about figuring it out. Winds of Change tackles a number of issues, mainly the climate change issue, and then there are the cultural dynamics of it involving characters and places from Zimbabwe, and then of course the UK, of which both you and Tafadzwa, who we're going to talk about a little later on, did an incredible job in
thank you.
representing all of those aspects. How did you go around researching and staying, because it's very accurate, you know, a lot of the factual bits that you throw in are very accurate, but how did you manage to strike the balance of keeping it interesting at the same time? How did that go?
So in terms of how I approached the research, I essentially just kind of Googled as much as I could about weather and the impact on climate change. And I started looking at the Gulf Stream. That ended up popping up a lot on search results for me. So I just started looking into that more, watching a lot of videos about the Gulf Stream and what would happen if it moves, you know, a few feet to the left, a few feet to the right, and the consequences.
Yeah.
The challenge I always found in my head is that because the UK is always quite cold, and then Africa's usually quite hot, just trying to find a way of getting those two to be impacted in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was yeah.
That was well done. So
Thank you.
I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but I did want to ask you about how you created your villains. Your villains are very I remember explaining it a few days ago to someone and explaining just the character of Aurora, you know, and Aurora throws in a lot of Shona here and there, and she, you know, it shows there's a lot of thinking that went behind the character. How did you come up with the family dynamics, number one, which I found really entertaining, and
Thank you.
then and then the Kex Aurora idea, those two villains and how they work together, how they, you know, how they appear and all of that, and I mean their appearance. How did you imagine that, and how did you put that all together? It was really magical.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So with the family dynamics, I just kind of thought about my own kind of friends and their siblings and kind of my own relatives as well. And I kind of just thought, oh, if our parents, as in me and my friends, if you know felt ill or something happened, how would their siblings kind of handle the situation? And usually, you know, when a parent kind of gets ill, they kind of get towards the end. There's usually always one sibling that's pined after the most, kind of towards the end, and they're the one that's kind of on the other side of the world and living their best life, and then the one that's up 24/7 looking after them, they're the one that tends to get forgotten. And then there's another sibling who's just kind of angry and resentful. So I just kind of, from conversations with friends, I just kind of gathered that those kind of antidotes and thought, okay, 3 siblings and their different approach to their dad. And then in terms of Aurora, it was mainly, I don't know where Aurora came from, because I wanted to convey that at one point her and Torero and Kex were essentially a group prior, and that they were working together, and Aurora just felt so betrayed by Torero kind of essentially marrying and having kids with a human, and just that rage and that anger and that betrayal just kind of essentially engulfed her and just made her into this evil person. So I'm not even gonna lie, I'm slowly brewing ideas for origin story type.
Oh, there you go.
Been thinking about it for a few months. So but yeah, no,
great.
that's
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. We'll make something happen.
That sounds good.
So generally, what was your inspiration for the whole story? Like your starting point, like where did you decide to draw your main creative ideas, if I can say that?
Main creative ideas. I'd say mainly just looking at how different people approach tough situations. There's people who kind of, especially in kind of like a work environment, because my background is prior to script writing, marketing, and there's kind of always one person in the office who panics, another person who doesn't really listen and then makes mistakes, and it's just all very chaotic and messy, and that somehow the campaign ends up being okay in the end. So I just kind of drew inspiration from that, just how different people approach situations and their reactions.
Yeah, I think that actually read through really well. Besides all of the conflict that happens, all the violence and action, what I took away from it personally was a really strong story about family, and I liked how I could relate to the strife and how some characters seem to have it easy, just the good things just go their way, and then you have other characters who are just working tirelessly trying to be the Boy Scout and that kind of thing. So I like how there's a great balance between reality in terms of human relationships and the fiction of it, the fantasy elements as well. So with that said, I can't talk too much about fantasy and fiction without bringing up the amazing Tafadzwa Shumba, who's also known as TS Zombie. And there are a number of things that, he knocked it out. There are a number of things that we obviously didn't get to see behind the scenes, maybe your discussions or your creative processes working together. What was it like working with Tafadzwa? Tafadzwa is from a town or a city here in Zimbabwe called Bulawayo. I wanted to know, what was your experience? What are there any fond memories or any aha moments where you guys were talking, maybe came up with something? How did it all go from the moment you guys met?
I mean, shout out to him. I really, really enjoyed working with him. He was just so game to put as much deep. I mean, as you remember that one meeting that we had where he wanted, I think it was the airport scene with Regina, and he wanted to put in a lot of so much detail, and he was just like, I'm game, I'm happy to just do as much as possible. And you were like, no, I don't want you burning out. Let's so,
just to give everyone listening in some context. Typically when you make a comic book, you work with a team of about 4 or 3, right? And Tafadzwa is this machine. He's truly hardworking. He's a genius. And we were describing certain scenes that Annabel had put in her screenplay, and there's a shot you'll see in the motion comic yourselves with a very elaborate airport scene, and he was determined to draw it as described. And I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're gonna have to draw it, draft it, color it, if there are any revisions, revise it, and that's just one panel out of a whole page. It's like, nope, I got this. And he knocked it out. Though he made us all very nervous at first, but that is a great memory. Actually, it's good to look back.
But I do love his enthusiasm, and I was always just like, I can scale back the writing if it's too much. He's like, no. Like, okay,
keep that there. I'm drawing that. How did you feel about his depiction of some of the fantasy elements? Like, for example, I won't say who, some of the monsters, I'll just say. They're neither African nor, European in design. Those are all just things that he imagined and he came up with. How did you feel about how they related to the message you wanted to put across about their role and what they were supposed to do? The way you imagined them. Personally, of course, I thought they were super creative. How did you feel the first time you saw that stuff?
When I saw the pictures of the characters, I'll be vague as well. He definitely took it further than I ever imagined, because I guess I am a huge fan of anime, but also love American animation as well, like the Boondocks and Adventure Time. So because I can't draw, I just default to, oh, kind of looks like this person, or that person from that show, and then that's what I was thinking when I was writing them down, and then but I didn't discuss that really with him. So then once I saw the pictures of the characters, I just thought, wow, yeah, that's 1,000 times better than I was thinking, because I was just whatever was out there.
Wow. So do you think what were the biggest challenges in the whole collaborative process from start to finish? They don't necessarily have to be related to making the comic, but just it was a tough time. It was post-COVID and so on. Generally, if we could just drift back and talk about you and your experience as an individual, what were the challenges that you remember?
I think a challenge for me was I just didn't want to hold you all up. So and again, this is my own fault, just saying yes to everything. But I remember the week that the first draft was due, that was also the same week a draft for the TV show I was writing on was due.
Wow.
And the film script, the first draft of that, they're all due around, I think, one was due on Monday, then Wednesday, then Thursday.
Wow.
So that was and of course I was pregnant at the time as well, so it was just a lot trying to get that all out. But I just kind of tried to think of it as like being back at university, this is your assignment, this is your deadline. And once I got into that mode, I just spent all day in the library just trying to like write it out, and managed to get it through in the end.
Wow.
And I guess another challenge is, as I said, comic book writing is just a whole new world for me. And just kind of trying to get my head around the fact that if you say a character's kind of walking from one end of the room to the other, that's like X amount of panels. So you don't have as much luxury when you're writing a film script. And then and also the formatting. I Googled how to format comic book scripts, and it wasn't really clicking with me the way it's normally laid out. That's why I thought, okay, I'm just going to draw a text box on Microsoft Word, and just to give them all a rough idea of where my mind is at with this. And so yeah.
Yeah, and it worked out. It made it all the more simpler. I also wanted to ask you about the cultural aspect of this project. There's a bit of cultural exchange as well. And I can't have a conversation with you without acknowledging how much effort you put into naming places correctly and referencing some of our tourist destinations, and tying it all into the story really well. What was your experience from a cultural perspective? Did you experience any culture shock working with Tafadzwa and the team from Zim? Did you research anything new that you wouldn't have otherwise come across? What was it like for you culturally?
Culturally, I enjoyed it. To be honest, because originally I'm from London, and just talking to people, I'm used to. When I tell people I'm from there, they tend to default to, oh, you've been Buckingham Palace, have you met the Queen, and that kind of stereotype. Well, the King now, stereotype stuff. And I just was always being conscious of when I came to the story that I'm not just going to pick the capital of Zimbabwe or pick this popular beach, and I wanted to make sure that I picked more of the suburban parts and kind of the outback areas. So culturally, it was, I guess, looking at pictures and just kind of reading up on the history of Zimbabwe, because I'm not, because my parents are from Ghana, so I'm kind of more familiar with that side. So it was nice to kind of just learn other parts. So.
Excellent. Wow. Yeah, but for those of you who are yet to watch or read the motion comic, just look out for all of those highlighted sites and references to places. It's really enriching.
Thank you.
So one of my last questions will be, now that you've worked on this project, how do you think that art and literature can contribute impactfully to the whole issue of climate change?
I'd say that it can have a huge impact. People in general, when you talk about climate change on the news, I don't know if it's just because of how it's delivered by the newscasters, but people tend to drift off, or people tend to kind of almost deny that it's happening when it is. And I maybe approaching that complicated, touchy subject of climate change through the arts, through medium, be it a comic book or a film, it might be I could see it being an easier way of introducing people to the severity of that topic, and kind of hopefully get across the seriousness of climate change and what we need to do to protect the planet. Wow.
So that's incredible and spot on, I think, especially I'll speak for those coming from the global south, as they put it. We are the hardest hit, and with everything happening currently in Pakistan, for example, it's almost undeniable what the impact is. And it's good to read a story where the heroes aren't from just one part of the world, but it kind of represents cooperation from the global south and the north working out a solution. So ultimately, when you think about Winds of Change, you've already referenced the potential for a sequel. Woohoo! What is your hope right now for the project? Like currently, what is your wildest hope? Like, what is the greatest and also the least outcome that you would expect for this project to accomplish when you think about it?
The most, I'd honestly, would love it to be a full-on series, and I would love to write an origin story comic book for each character. I said I've already got a couple ideas brewing for origin stories for some of the villains. Awesome. So that would be great. Wildest TV show on a streaming service.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? If you need a writer for that, I can recommend a person.
Yeah.
And I guess the least, it feels so sad to say. Maybe that people still not take climate change very seriously even after watching it. I think that would probably be the saddest thing. Yeah.
I think that's still a powerful turnout of events if at the very least it forces people to interrogate their views on the whole issue. And I think ultimately this has been an incredible project, and I don't think it would have worked out with any other writer. I can't imagine it. It's been absolutely awesome. And do you have a message that you would like to share with other writers that might be affiliated to Writing West Midlands and the general creative writing community in the UK about projects like this? Like, what would you have to say to them, whether it's a word of encouragement or just to maybe, tell them about this experience from your perspective in a different way that they could be more interested, maybe? I don't know.
I would say that being a writer, and I was guilty of it as well, of you have kind of a set goal in mind that you only want to write for a specific genre or a specific medium, and you can get really tunnel visioned and frustrated when you're not making any progress. I would definitely say just be open and willing to work in different mediums. I mean, I've honestly just had so much fun writing a comic book, and I never thought I would ever do that. And I'm glad and I'm proud that I got to do it, and I'm glad I got to do it with you guys. So I'd just say, I'd say be polite, be respectful, and be open to working in other mediums.
Absolutely awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. So the name of the comic book is Winds of Change. Annabel, would you like to just share a few of your maybe social media handles, if you don't mind, or where someone can check out your work maybe?
Sure. So my Twitter is ACA Brightling. That's ACA and then Brightling. And then I have a website. It's I believe it's just annabelbrightling.me.uk.
Nice.
Yep. So
Awesome. My name is Eugene Ramirez Mapondera, and I've been talking to Annabel Brightling. I represent K-Media Africa and Comexposed, one of the partner organizations that has made Winds of Change a possibility. I'd like to thank the team at Writing West Midlands, as well as the British Council that has made this possible, and everyone else behind the scenes. Thank you so much for your time. And remember to check out Annabel's social media handles and her links. With that said, thank you so much for joining us, and catch you next time.
thank you. Take care.